Oh, good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday. I have my coffee. It's time for some Sunday tech support. And today I actually made a list of things we're going to talk about, but you are always welcome to join in the comments and leave your question as well. And we'll get to that today too. Today, I'm going to talk to you about typing speeds and why that matters. We're going to look at some cool keyboard shortcuts that you probably haven't used before. We're going to look at a couple resources to figure out if a website service is not operating or if it's a problem with your internet connection. We're going to talk about some new reply features on Twitter that'll let you control your Twitter conversations a little more. We're going to talk about how to recover files from a Windows machine if something has gone horribly wrong. I'm going to make one more shout out to my favorite new piece of tech, the banana phone, and we're going to answer your questions as well. So let's go ahead and get started. I got some new buttons to push this week. So I am playing around, making sure I got everything right. And I think this will be the introduction. Welcome to Tech Support Sunday. All right, as I slam down the last of my second coffee for the day, my name is Levi Sarabrai. I am the Nerd Butler, and in my content, I talk about tips, tricks, tools, tutorials, resources, and recommendations to help you do more with the technology you have and to make some smart choices about the technology you're going to purchase or use in the future, because technology is not a luxury. I've been telling people this for a long time. It affects every part of our life every day. One of the other things I'm going to talk to you about today is a blog post I made this week about just how much data we're putting out into the world as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Making a couple notes to myself here. Let's go ahead and get started this week. Let you know where you can find content from me elsewhere. You can go to nerdbutler.com. You can check out at Nerd Butler on all the social media. On Instagram, you're likely to see pictures of my dog. On LinkedIn, you're likely to see more small business oriented things. On Facebook, it's kind of just a mishmash of everything. And Twitter, I tend to talk about the latest tech news and headlines and how it affects you. I am also happy to introduce some new ways to get a hold of me. If you are in the market to send me a question, you can send an email to contact@nerdbutler.com, or you can leave a voicemail at 469-546-5585, and I will put that number back up a couple times during the broadcast today, just so you can scribble it down. I promise I'm not going to answer that phone, but you are more than welcome to leave me a voicemail describing your question. Or if you want to make a video of your question and email that to contact@nerdbutler.com, you are more than welcome to do that. You can also leave a comment on this video if you're not watching live, or you can hit me up on Twitter @NerdButler as well, and I will get back to you there. So I want to start off this week talking about something we kind of all take for granted. And frankly, I had stopped thinking about it for a while until I ran into a video from one of the folks I subscribe to on YouTube. His name is Ali Abdal, and you can see his channel there. But he had a video out earlier this week about typing speeds. And one of the things that he's a doctor, and he's a YouTuber who does productivity videos. I find that to be a rather impressive collection of things to do. Being a doctor seems like a full-time, life-encompassing, time-devouring thing. And I know that making content for YouTube can also be that as well. So the fact that he can do both is pretty amazing. So he does a lot of videos about productivity, how to study better, how to get more out of your time. And he did a video about typing speeds, which is something I hadn't thought of in a while. You know, we get to a certain point where we're typing, we're as good of a typer as we're probably ever going to be, and we don't think about it, excuse me, as a skill that we need to practice or enhance, but it really is. If you can increase your typing speed by any amount, you're going to be more efficient. You're going to get more done during your day. Next week, I'm going to do some content about some of the really amazing speech-to-text tools that Google has started putting out, both on the phones and in their Google Docs product. But typing is still the main way we interface with a computer, whether it's with our thumbs on the phone or on a traditional keyboard. So
Today, I want to talk about a couple of the tools he recommended that can help you work on your typing speed. You know, again, I think we're all looking for something to fill up the time, and maybe improving your typing speed by 10 or 20 words per minute is something that you can spend a little time on each day this week and make your life a little better. So a couple of websites to look at that might help you out with this. The first one is Fast Fingers, so 10fastfingers.com. And I have not tried these tools out yet. This is going to be my goal this week, to spend 5 or 10 minutes a day just focusing on this. But, you know, 10fastfingers.com is just a place where you can go and take a quick typing test. And you can tell that I am not really a touch typer. I keep looking down, trying to look at the screen, and I am clearly not doing a good job. Try and focus a little bit more. All right, that's enough of that nonsense. I'm not getting it done. That's basically what's happening. So the typing test, top 200 words, and it'll walk you through and then show you where you're at, and then take you through some exercises to help improve on your typing skill. You can sign up for an account there, and it's a really nifty tool that, like, literally I discovered yesterday that I'm definitely going to be coming back and playing around with some more. The second tool that I really liked, because it gets even more specific about how it's going to help you enhance your typing speed, and this is keybr.com. So keybr.com. We got our link up here. I should probably put these in the chat so people can find them later. Let's go ahead and grab that. Throw this in the chat, keybr.com. So we're going to go ahead and see if we can take a bit of this test. Let's come back over to the right screen. Whoops. As you can tell, I need to finish off that coffee that I haven't quite got to yet. Let's pause for a quick Americano break. This video not sponsored by Starbucks, but it does keep me going. All right, click to activate. Here we go. Let's take a quick typing test. 10. And you can tell some of these are words, some of them are not. It's mostly to get you functioning at a certain part of the keyboard to see what your skills are. One of the things that happens, I think particularly for people that do computer coding or any kind of sort of non-prose typing, is that you end up needing to type a lot of character combinations that they wouldn't teach you in a traditional typing course. So, for instance, because of my work with SQL databases, I can type the words select, from, and where incredibly quickly, but there's a lot of other things that happen when you're doing computer coding that are not, they're not words. And so you can see, here's the key set up at the top of, I'm working on E, N, I, T, R, and L, and currently I'm really bad at the letter N. So if I were to come through here and finish this lesson completely, it would come back and take me through some practice exercises that would help me work on correctly hitting the letter N more frequently, which is going to improve my typing speed. And it's not just typing speed. Also, we got to look at accuracy. We got to think about, are we saying the things we want to say? Because autocorrect is great and spell check is great, but it is something that slows you down. So I would encourage everybody to take, a few minutes this week just to, if you haven't thought about how your typing affects your daily life, and you are someone who uses the computer frequently, even if it's just to write emails, I think just spending a little time thinking about your typing speed is something that can improve your daily life, make you less frustrated with the computer, make you a better communicator, and help you just be more efficient with your time as you work things out. So that was the first thing I wanted to talk about today, which is just like, think about your typing speed, maybe take a few minutes this week and do a little bit to work on it, do a little bit to improve it. Along with typing speed, there's a few things, and again, the YouTube video that I saw from Ali this week reminded me of this. I do actually have we'll go grab it. I do have a blog post up where I am starting to collect keyboard shortcuts that I use frequently. And once I run through those, I'm going to work on keyboard shortcuts that other people have suggested. So hopefully over a period of time, we're going to end up with a whole bunch of keyboard shortcuts, but there are keyboard shortcuts for almost everything you can do on a computer. And you can see we've got some of the basics in here already. Cut, copy, and paste. I started with those because I think that there are people who just have never used a keyboard to cut, copy, and paste things. And it really is, if you're somebody who's already a touch typist in particular, keeping your fingers on the keyboard is something so valuable and can increase the efficiency and reduce the frustration you have with a computer so much. So cut, copy, and paste without formatting. These are all in the blog post already. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just throwing a ton of links up today into the chat just so you can kind of follow along. We also have undo and redo. Control Z is the greatest keyboard shortcut that ever was. In most programs, Control Z will undo the last action you took. So it's a really great way to correct quite a few mistakes. Find and replace. Those are easy. The ones I'm going to add this week, as I said, Ali reminded me of the first one, but there's several others that are really handy. And I think most people don't recognize them, don't even know maybe what those keys on their keyboard are for, or don't fully utilize the keyboard as much as they could. Sorry, folks, I'm vamping while I get to the right spot here. So what I want to talk to you guys about is a couple different keyboard shortcuts. So hopefully y'all can see what's up on the screen right now. So now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their country. This is a typing test that my mom taught me a long time ago, and it's not a speed test or anything else. It was actually just something that she would type onto a typewriter or a keyboard just to get a sense for how it worked. The other phrase that I think most people know is the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dogs, and that one is important because it uses all the letters of the alphabet in one easy sentence. So these two sentences I have used for years as a way of just testing out what a keyboard feels like. If you're shopping for a laptop at the store and you type out, now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their country. And that one actually forces your fingers to change rows very frequently, but is still easy to remember and handy. So the keyboard shortcuts that we were talking about, a lot of times if people type something wrong, so I'm just going to hit backspace a bunch, come to the aid of their, and I used the wrong there. So I could backspace 6 times, or I can hit control backspace, takes out a whole word. Control backspace deletes the previous word. And that's much faster. So I hit backspace a few times to come to the aid of their country. So control backspace deletes an entire word. Pretty handy. That is pretty handy. The other two keys that I think people either don't use or don't use super effectively are the end key and the home key. I use them in spreadsheets constantly, but when you are when you're just typing in a document, home and end are intended to go to the beginning of the line and the end of the line. So you guys can see hopefully the keyboard in the lower right of the screen that's showing you what my key presses are. So if I hit the home key, it goes to the beginning of the line. The end key takes us to the end of the line, home, and that's really simple, right? It does that for whichever line you're on. So if I'm in the middle of a line, I want to go to the beginning, I hit home. I want to go to the end, I hit end. That's great. But what if I want to go to the end of the document and not just the end of the line? So that would be control end, jumps me all the way to the end of my document. Now this works in Google Docs. It works in Microsoft Word. I'm in Visual Studio Code now, but any text editor basically, control end will take you to the end of the document, while control home will take you to the beginning of the document. So again, particularly if you're already a proficient typist, having those at your command so you can jump around the document quickly without having to take your hands off the keyboard and put it on the mouse to move the cursor are super handy. The other ones that I don't have written down here, but I just want to show you real quick. Again, with the home and end keys, if you hold down the shift key and hit end, it will select everything from where you are to the end of the line. So if we go back to the beginning, and let's just say I only want here. So if I hold down the shift and the end key, that selects all of the text from wherever my cursor was to the end of the line. Similarly, if I am, I'll cheat and use the mouse and go back up here. If I'm in the middle of a line, I hold down shift and home, it goes from the cursor to the beginning of the line, and that text is selected. And now I can use some of my other shortcuts like Control C, and then we'll go Control End to get to the end of the document, put a couple new lines, and Control V to paste that stuff in. So all of that navigation I did without my mouse, which I think is super handy. Again, Shift Home selects all of the text from my cursor to the beginning of the line, and I'm going to get rid of that text that I just pasted in. The other thing that I do pretty frequently is Control A, which will select everything, whether you're in a spreadsheet or a document or a text document, that selects the entire document. The other, so Shift End would get the whole line. If I'm at the end of the document and I go Control Shift Home, that goes back to the beginning of my document and selects all the text in between where I was and the beginning. This is not intended to be a comprehensive tutorial, but it is it's to demonstrate that there are really cool ways to get around a document, to navigate things without necessarily taking your hands off and having to grab the mouse. Mice are great. As pointing devices revolutionized the way we interact with computers, it absolutely made it possible for an average consumer, for someone without an engineering degree, for someone who hasn't spent hundreds of hours studying the command line, to use a computer effectively. But keyboard shortcuts are still a really efficient way for you to interact with your computer. And if you can learn just a couple of them, that'll help you get more efficient at sort of your daily tasks. That's really, really powerful. All right, we're going to go right down through our list of stuff here today, trying to be efficient. The next one I wanted to talk about was a new feature on Twitter. And as far as I know, this has rolled out to almost everyone. Has rolled out to almost everyone. Twitter is a really interesting place. I've had some really great conversations there. I know my wife Eve has had many, many great conversations there. She has used it to full effect to close business, to make acquaintances. Her last book deal was originated by a tweet to someone that she really admired. But part of the problem with Twitter and part of the benefit of Twitter is that everyone can see everything. It's just this public forum where everyone can have a pleasant discussion or scream and yell and shout. So if in the past, if you tweeted something, anyone could reply to it, and that's the way it was. And if you were trying to have a public conversation with an individual person or a couple of people, it was quite often hijacked by someone else jumping in and offering their opinion. And that can kind of drown out the message you were trying to get out there in the first place. So I've tested this out. It works both on the Android mobile app. I believe it's on the iOS mobile app as well, and on the website. So I'm going to come in and say, good morning, my lovely wife. I hope you're having a good day. Can you help me with a Twitter test? Now, this right here is what's new. This everyone can reply button. In the past, everyone can reply was the only option there was, so they didn't bother putting it here. But I'm going to change it so that only people I can follow can reply to this, or only the people I mentioned. So when I click only people you mention can reply, and I tweet that, that tweet just went out. Let's go over here. Now, if I were a famous celebrity, or if I were saying something controversial, or if I were trying to have a public discussion with one or two people, in the past, anyone could reply and get into my conversation and just butt in and take things over. Now, only Eve can reply to this tweet, but everyone can still see it. Look, there's one like already. I'm betting that she is going to be responding here in just a moment. So this is a really cool option, I think, that Twitter has offered. Twitter is constantly struggling with this balance between being a public forum and maintaining some form of civil conversation. Like, there's a real struggle there. So with this new option, and again, you're just looking for this everyone can reply option. I saw exactly the same language in the mobile app. This will allow you to have a public discussion. You don't have to make it private. You don't have to delete your account or remove anything or block people. You can have a conversation with specific people on Twitter publicly without it being polluted by a bunch of folks who are just trying to cause trouble or just trying to get notoriety on the back of your conversation. So if you are a heavy duty Twitter user and you haven't seen that yet, I encourage you to go take a look, check it out and see. Eve is very flattering to me. So you can see there that Eve has responded to me. You are welcome, if you're watching this, to go and find that tweet and try and reply to it. You will see that you are unable to. So I thought that was really cool. I know that for most of my audience, you are not massive Twitter users, but I do think it's significant just because Twitter is making some concerted efforts finally to moderate and monitor the kind of discourse that takes place on Twitter. So this allows you to have a really nice civil conversation while you are still having that conversation publicly. All right, quick breather, because I've been talking for a little bit, but I want to remind you all that I am Levi Sauerbrei. You can find more Nerd Butler stuff at nerdbutler.com. That's where the blog is. There's a contact form there if you want to send me a question. You can also find me on social media at Nerd Butler. Don't DM me. Twitter DMs are just kind of a disaster, but you can certainly mention me on Twitter and I will see that for sure and reply to you. You can find me on Instagram if you want to see pictures of my dog. There's also a Facebook page at Nerd Butler and the YouTube channel at Nerd Butler. And I would love it if you were to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're trying to grow that subscriber number, and that is a way for you to show me that you are actually enjoying some of the things that I am doing. I also want to tell you about the email address. If you don't want to go to the website, you don't want to go to social media, you can just email me, contact@nerdbutler.com, or you can leave a voicemail at 469. Let's pull that guy back up again. Sorry, I talked too long. 469-546-5585. You can leave a voicemail there, and I will respond to your question if you leave that message. All right, we're grinding right along, moving right down through our list of topics. There was a Gmail outage this week, and the outage affected, I don't know, several 100,000 people, which in the grand scheme of Gmail is not that many, but if you were one of those 100,000 people and you couldn't get to your email, it was actually a problem. One of the things we all struggle with is when you open up your laptop or you open up your phone or you sit down at your computer and you go to a website, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Netflix, whether it's your bank's website, and the website doesn't work. You don't know if it's a problem with the website you're going to. Is it a problem with Twitter? Is it a problem with my internet provider? Is it a problem with my computer? There's too many moving pieces in this puzzle for someone to reasonably know which piece it is that is broken. So there's a couple tools out there that I want to show you guys real quick, just to let you know that there are ways to check and see which piece of the puzzle is or isn't working. The easiest thing to check is your internet connection. So if you go to a website and it doesn't work and you go to another website and it does work, your internet connection is fine, right? So we can cross that one off the list right away. If you go to a website and it doesn't work and you go to another website and it doesn't work and no websites work, probably your internet connection. Thanks, Eve. I thought that reply was really cool. And actually, that's mostly for you because I know you are a big Twitter user. So there's a couple websites. We talk about how to tell if it's your internet connection. If no websites are working on your computer, it's probably your internet connection. And then you got to sort that out. If one website isn't working, you can go to a couple different places to see if other people are having trouble with that same website. So the most well-known, the most robust one, I think, and the easiest one to use is called Down Detector. And it's just downdetector.com, which again, I'm all about pasting links today. Let's throw that guy in there. Downdetector.com. You can type in just the name of the service that you're having trouble with. So I'm going to say I'm having trouble with Gmail. And it's going to look through its database and see, Gmail and Google. So we see a nice blue line here. This line represents the number of people reporting an issue with Google and Gmail over time, and it ends now. So if I click in to get more details, this says there's no problems at Gmail. I have a problem with Gmail. Now I'm not going to click the button because I don't at the moment have a problem with Gmail. They give you lots of interesting things to see. So here's the last 24 hours reports of problems with Gmail. If there's an outage, they will show that map and you can go click into it and look a little more closely at what's happening. So you can see right now in Northern Europe there seems to be more people reporting problems. Down Detector is a really solid website. They do have some technology that monitors different services, but a lot of Down Detector is driven by people going to Down Detector and reporting a problem. So you can see some of the most popular services down here underneath. So right now, Facebook Messenger, that line is red because they feel like the level of problems being reported by users has risen. You can see Zelle here. Zelle was having no problems and then all of a sudden spiked up. And so this is a 24-hour period. And in the last hour or so, you can see that it spiked up. So if we click into Facebook Messenger, you can see Facebook Messenger problems in the last 24 hours. Now, 35 reports may not seem like a lot, but this is people who bothered to go to Down Detector and report a problem. What they're looking at is how many people are doing that. So the group of people, maybe you use Down Detector, but you never, ever report that you have a problem. Okay, but you can contribute by doing that. So it also talks a little bit about the different types of problems that are being reported. And there is a Down Detector app that you can install on your phone. So I love Down Detector. Anytime somebody is like, hey, my Gmail just isn't working, I will come to Down Detector and look and see if other people are reporting an issue with Gmail. And you can see there are tons of different internet service providers are on here. PG&E, so that's a power company, but it's their website. Steam, the gaming service, they're really solid. Even cell phone providers like T-Mobile are on here. So individual games like Call of Duty, social media platforms like Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, Xbox Live. You can see the list goes on and on. And if you don't see the one you want on here, you can actually just come up and type it in. Let's see, what is a good one? I don't know. Leave me a comment if you can think of a service that you might want to check out in here, or you can just go to downdetector.com and type it right in there. You don't have to know the link to their site. I'm going to say, I wonder if Lucid Link is in here. This is a service I'll be talking about more next week. They're not in there. So you can see it doesn't have absolutely everyone, but you can get a list of all of the companies they have. And as I mentioned, it's pretty exhaustive. Let me just drag this scroll bar to make you dizzy. Patreon, Photo Bucket, they got a ton of them in here, and they will take suggestions on which services they might want to add. So I highly recommend Down Detector as sort of your first stop on the way to finding out if there's something wrong with the website itself or something wrong with your connection. There are a couple other services as well. One of them is It Down Right Now? Very cleverly named. We'll put that in the chat as well. Is It Down Right Now? And this one's a little more techie, a little more detailed. You can come in and you'll need to type in the URL that you're shooting for. So I'm going to type in netflix.com and it will give me a whole bunch of information about it. Down detector is basically like this is having problems or this isn't having problems, because nobody really expects you to solve the problem if there is a problem. You just need to know that it's not your computer that's causing it. So isitdownrightnow.com is a place you can go and get a little bit more technical detail if you are a geeky person and have a mind to understand a little bit more about what might be going on. And then the third one, down for everyone or just me. Again, mostly I just love the fact that somebody registered these domains and started using them. This is another one where it's a little more technical. They don't present the information quite as well. Not just me, google.com is down. Interesting. All right. Let's check another site. I feel like I typed that wrong. Google.com. It seems unlikely that Google is down right now. And if I click on it, I have unusual traffic. I've done something horrible, kids. So maybe Google is down for me. All right. Down for everyone or just me.com is another resource that you can use to figure out if it's your computer that's part of the problem or if it is the service provider itself. I think folks have the mistaken impression that the internet is bulletproof. The internet is amazing. It is incredibly reliable. It is a wonder of nature and science, but there are times when things go wrong. There's human error. There's malicious attacks. There's just mechanical breakdowns from time to time. The internet is an incredibly robust sort of self-healing critter, but there are times when specific services just go a little bluey and they might be down for a while. So if you need to find out, I highly recommend downdetector.com. I also wanted to talk about an infographic that I put out this week about how much data we're all putting out there. So there is, let's pull this up into a new tab. So I saw a stat that said that the average person in 2020 will produce 1.7 megabytes of data per second. And 1.7, like, I don't know, how big is a picture? How big is a video? I have some sense of file sizes, but what does 1.7 megabytes per second look like in real world terms? So I started doing some digging. And thank you to Luna for creating this infographic for me. I started doing some digging. So in the year 2020, the average person produces 1.7 megabytes of data. So I did some digging around. That's per second. I did some digging around to figure out what is 1.7 megabytes of data. And there's a lot of different like calculations and ways of getting to a number. But one that I found that was kind of in the middle, it wasn't the most aggressive, it wasn't the most conservative, but it said 1.7 megabytes of data would be approximately 850 pages, 8.5 by 11 printed pages of double-spaced text. So every second, you are producing 850 double-spaced pages of typed text. All right, cool. Well, what does that mean? What that actually means is that each of us, as we just walk around living our normal, modern 21st century lives, is producing the equivalent of the entire Harry Potter series every 5 seconds. That means that every minute of every day, we are producing 12 copies of the whole Harry Potter series, all 8 volumes. Now, I don't think that's good or bad. I think it's just a fact. Data, like everything else, is a tool that can be used for a variety of purposes. I get a lot of value out of the data that I am generating that is collected by the likes of Google, who gives me better directions to the place I'm going, and things like that. So there are absolutely a lot of benefits to generating data. Eve asked a question. Hi, Mark. Good morning. Eve asked a question. How am I producing that much data when I'm not using my phone? So this is an average. So every second, maybe you're not producing any data right now this very second because your phone is off and you're asleep and your entire house is turned off. But we're generating data through our phone, which is reporting our location to Google and reporting our location to Facebook and possibly to Twitter and to Instagram and all of the services we use. Now, that doesn't even include the picture we're taking to put on Instagram, which is even more data. Your phone is also collecting information about the cell tower it's connected to, about the internet service, Wi-Fi it's connected to. All of this data is aggregated, and then most of it is delivered unto someone. So right now, as I am sitting here talking to you, the data from my computer is traveling out onto my internet connection. It's being collected by my internet service provider. It's being collected by YouTube, who is hosting the video. It's also being collected by every ad network that is on YouTube. It's being, the data is being collected about the folks that are watching this video. We're generating massive amounts of data. I've seen other statistics that say crazy things like, of all the data generated in the history of mankind, 90% of it has been generated in the last 12 months, right? Like, just outrageous things. But we are producing data at not an alarming rate, at a massive rate, because we have the ability to, even if you don't have your phone with you, even if your phone is turned off, when you go to the store and you use your credit card, you're generating data that is being collected. When you are streaming Netflix on your television, you are generating data that is being collected. Netflix is tracking what you're watching, and there's been some creepy things like TV manufacturers who are trying to figure out how many people are watching it by listening to the room. They're always looking for new and exciting ways to put that stuff together. But the point is, we generate this data, and what I wrote about in my blog post is the fact that, yes, we're generating this data. The fact that we're generating the data should not be cause for alarm. It's a byproduct of the world we live in and the tools we use and the benefits we accrue from that. What we don't have right now is a good legislative and legal framework for how this data gets used. Pandora's box has been opened. We are never going to generate less data. Cory Doctorow has said some really brilliant things about this, and I'm paraphrasing one of his phrases, but it's never going to get harder to make data, ever. It's only going to get easier. Digital copies are easy to make. Yes, Mark, I think most of the generation of this data is, when we say passive, is relatively passive. Yes. I mean, I think if you think back to a time before the internet and before cell phones, your home generated data in the form of electric meter readings and water meter readings. But it took someone to physically come out to your home to look at the meter to collect and interpret that data. They had to go back to the office and punch it into their machine or put it in their files. Now, with all of our connected devices, with the prevalence of mobile internet, the fact that you're carrying around your smartphone, just carrying it around turned on, generates a pretty fair amount of data, location data, connection data. So your phone knows which Wi-Fi networks you've been connected to and at what time. So it knows where you were. A lot of this stuff comes back to location, but it also knows that you were in Target, and the credit card company knows that you used your credit card at Target, and now they can connect these two things. Oh, this phone and this credit card go together. And this is used for advertising purposes. It's used for a variety of purposes. The point is not that there are some people who will yell and scream and shout and say you shouldn't be collecting this data, and you shouldn't be allowed to keep it. You shouldn't be allowed to use it for commercial purposes. But right now, the technology has so far outstripped the legislative and legal frameworks that we have for dealing with this stuff that it's all just kind of the Wild West right now. Data collection and aggregation, which is something we haven't really talked about, but the aggregation of this data, like I said, if your phone knows where you are and your bank knows where you spent your money, it is relatively simple for those two organizations to get together and figure out which credit card belongs to which person. This might creep you out, but it's not going to get harder to do that. So the question is, and what I think the conversation in the technology and legal community should be is, are we going to regulate the production of data? Are we going to regulate the collection of data? Or are we going to regulate the use and retention of data? I think the only thing you can regulate effectively is the use and retention of data. So Google has started doing things like automatically deleting your location history. Let's pull up that headline. Oh, goodness. Let's find a news story, because this was in the news a couple months ago, but there we go. All right, so switch over here real quick. This was a really interesting story that came out, and this one was from June 24th of this year, so only about a month ago, 2 months ago. Burner phones, you can buy a burner phone if you are in a spy movie, and that's what you really need to do if you need to make phone calls that aren't going to be directly tied to you, but you're going to have to do it every 3 days or so. As soon as you use that phone in multiple places, as soon as you start generating data with that phone, the world is going to try and tie the use of that phone with other things it knows. And, you can buy a burner phone, but you shouldn't turn on location data. You should not have any social media on there. If you have like an old school flip phone, maybe. Again, I'm going to make the argument that it's not the production and collection of the data that is problematic. The problem arises from poor use, from failing to secure it correctly, and from hanging on to it for far too long. So in June, Google announced that it will automatically delete your location history by default. And I'm trying to remember 18 months. Okay. So if you have an Android phone, or if you use Google services on your iPhone, it collects a ton of data about you, notably your location. So I can go onto my Android device, I can go onto a website from Google, and I can look at every place I have been in forever, like since I've had a Google account, basically. And it will prompt me. It'll say, hey, you've got some gaps in your timeline. Like, we know you were somewhere, but can you tell us which of these 3 stores that your phone was close to were you actually in? And you can provide that information if you want. And they invite you to make reviews about places. They're collecting a bunch of data. It's what Google does. Google's mission is to index all the information in the world. And that information can include where I am, where I go, how I spend my money. Now, they use that to provide me with some services that I find valuable. They also use that to make a lot of money through advertising revenue and targeting. So what they said was, what we're going to start doing is keeping your location history for 18 months and then automatically deleting it. That is a really bold statement from Google, considering who they are and what they do for a living. What they're basically saying is, if we know where you've been for the last year and a half, that's enough for us to do our jobs. We don't need to know where you were 10 years ago. We don't need to know where you were, even further back than that. Now, they've also provided tools to help you delete that information yourself. You can delete every time you talk to your voice assistant, whether it's an Amazon Echo or a Google Home device, it records that and it sends it back to Amazon or to Google. And they store all of that stuff, and you can go look at it and delete all of it if you want. When you do that, Google knows less about me, which, if that is your goal, you can take the steps to do that. I want Google to know more about me because that helps them provide better services to me. However, I would like to have some legal protection against Google using my data in particular ways. For instance, should Google be allowed to take all of the fitness data I've been collecting? I track my weight. I punch my weight into the app every day, and it's telling me, oh, you're having a good week, you're having a bad week. When you work out, you lose weight. When you don't work out, you gain weight. Should they be able to give that information to an insurance company to help the insurance company decide whether or not I should get a policy or what rate they should charge me for my life insurance policy? I'm not sure. These are arguments we need to have. These are discussions that are absolutely worth having. So, so data is being generated all the time, everywhere, by everything that we touch. And again, even passively, even passively, you put your credit card into a gas pump, and it collects the card number, it collects the expiration date, it knows physically where the pump is, so it knows that your credit card is in Portland, Oregon instead of San Antonio, Texas. And again, that's actually beneficial. That is data generation that is beneficial, because if somebody stole my credit card and is using it to buy gas in Portland, and that experience to the credit card company looks out of line, they will call me and say, hey, did you just buy gas in Portland, Oregon? Because we noticed that yesterday you bought gas in San Antonio, Texas, and that seems like it might be a fraudulent transaction. Like, I want that level of data collection happening in my world. But there should be limits and restrictions around that, just like there are around many other things that we've had for a long time, that people already understand the pluses and minuses. But right now we have a situation where the technology is so far ahead of the law that it is a little tough sometimes to be able to understand. When companies lose your data, when they fail to take basic precautions to secure the data, and your social security number, your credit card number, your phone number, your location information is stolen by a third party for nefarious purposes, the company that allowed it to be stolen should be criminally liable for that action, because they failed to secure it. But there is no law that will make that enforceable. For instance, and by comparison, if there is a company that handles toxic waste or nuclear disposal of nuclear products, right? Toxic waste. Let's take toxic waste. The regulations around the disposal of lithium-ion batteries is very clear. The EPA has very strict regulations, and if a company just starts burying tons and tons of batteries in a landfill, they're criminally liable by EPA regulation and by federal law for damage to the environment. Why don't we have similar laws about data? Producing lithium-ion batteries isn't a crime, and it's very useful. Improperly disposing of them is and should be a crime. So producing data, I don't think should be a crime. Improperly using, improperly securing, or improperly storing data, I think should have some consequences to it. So that's my little rant about that. And that actually, might give me something to write about this week. Other things we want to talk about. One more thing, sort of in a this might affect your techie life area. Let's find that screen. I had a gentleman who I've helped in the past write to me and say he apologies. He had a Windows laptop. The Windows laptop said, it's time to install a new update. And he installed the new update, as he should, because updates help keep your computer secure and safe and lots of other things, give you new features. The update in the middle of it got to 30% done, then the computer turned off. When they turned the computer back on, there was nothing. It didn't turn on. It was gone. That is very distressing. And he actually did a really good job. He found a way to create the recovery USB drive. He reinstalled Windows, got everything back up and running, but all of his personal files were gone. This is distressing. So he basically had like a brand new computer with none of his stuff on it. And his question was, how can I get that stuff back? So I want to mention, I have not used this tool in the past, but it got very good reviews online. And there are several others like it on the market. But this drill data recovery software, you can download it. It's a free tool. You can run it on a hard drive, on a USB disk, or on some other form of storage, and it will help you to recover deleted files. So I want to talk, I put the link for that in the chat, but I want to talk briefly about sort of how the magic works from a nerd standpoint on this. Any form of computer storage is a bunch of ones and zeros, right? I think most people, kind of understand that. It's a bunch of ones and zeros written in a certain order that the computer processor can translate into a picture. or a movie or a text document or a website. Excuse me. When you delete a file, in the interest of expediency, in the interest of efficiency, the computer will typically not switch everything to a 0 or a blank where that file was. Typically what they will do is delete it from the file table. So I want you to imagine that we have a neighborhood full of houses and we have a phone book that has all of the phone numbers and addresses for each of these houses. One of the houses is your Word document. One of the houses is a movie of your cat. One of the houses is a picture of your grandbabies. And then you have a phone book that tells you where the phone number to contact that house and the address of that house. In the interest of efficiency, most computers will simply remove that entry from the phone book, but they'll leave the house where it is. This is how recovery tools will recover files, because until you blow up the house and build a new one right where it was, that house is still there, even though it's not in the phone book. So what tools like Disk Drill and others will do is go back and start reading earlier versions of the phone book and saying, ooh, the phone book last week said that there was a house there that looked like a picture of a cat. The phone book said that there was a house there that looked like a Word document, and it will re-add those entries to the phone book. So if you find yourself in a situation where you have lost a bunch of files inadvertently, and you're trying to get them back, there's a couple things you can do. One, you can grab a tool like Disk Drill. The second thing you should do is, if it's really important to you, don't use that computer again until you are able to start trying this recovery. Every time you use the computer, it will potentially overwrite the storage, meaning when you yank that thing out of the phone book and it's not there anymore, the house is still standing. But when the computer comes back and says, ooh, I have a new Word document or I have a new video, and I need a place to put it, it's going to look around and see which of the houses aren't in the phone book anymore, and it's going to blow up one of the ones that isn't listed. So the more you use the computer, the more likely it is that the files that were deleted are going to be overwritten by something new. That will make them unrecoverable. At that point, you cannot get them back because the house has been blown up. As long as the house isn't blown up, as long as you haven't put any new information on that part of the drive or of the storage device, there's a reasonable chance that you can get them back. Now, nothing is guaranteed because you don't know exactly how the inner workings, exactly which portion of the hard drive is going to get written to. But if you have a drive or a USB thumb drive or something that has information on it that you desperately want to get back and it was deleted for whatever reason, you can use a utility like Disk Drill to go in there, and it will scan the drive and sort of reassemble the phone book from a previous version. Disk defrag reclaim this space. It can, and honestly, I would say at this point in time with Windows, I find disk defragging, if you're running Windows 10, it is almost never necessary. But yes, disk defragging is moving around the files to sort of like collect them all into one place. So it's like taking all the books on the bookshelf and squishing them together so it's all over here. And in theory, that makes the disk run faster. 10 years ago, that absolutely was of benefit to a computer user. I don't really think it is anymore. But yes, if you defrag a disk, it is moving, it's rewriting the phone book from scratch to put all the files and addresses right next to each other. So yeah, it's very distressing when something happens to your computer and you can't find the information. So if you are able to stop using that computer as soon as possible, and that means like, don't even let it sit there turned on, because your computer does do things while it's turned on, even when you're not using it, like downloading new updates, like, a few other things. So leave the computer turned off until you're ready to make the attempt to recover the stuff. If there's something horribly wrong with the computer hardware itself, you can always take the hard drive out, put it in another machine. I've got a couple little doodads that allow me to plug in hard drives from other machines. They're not expensive. And if you need one, let me know. We'll put up a link for that in some content later on. But I just wanted to talk about that real briefly. And again, Disk Drill is one of those tools. I believe one of the other ones I saw that got pretty good reviews is, I want to say this is pronounced as Ease Us or Ease US. And you can download that for Windows or Mac. It's got a free trial version. So you can check out those two things if you find yourself in that circumstance. And you can also give me a shout. This seems like a good time to stop and say, you can find me at nerdbutler.com and at Nerd Butler on social media. There's a contact form there you can give me a holler about. And you can also, we're waiting for that to go away. Look at that. All right. You can also now, because I just couldn't help myself, send an email to contact@nerdbutler.com or leave a voicemail at 469-546-5585. I promise I won't answer that number, but I promise I will get back to you if you leave me a voicemail there. So we are almost at the end of an hour. We are almost through my list of stuff to talk about. I think the only thing I have left is something that I know Eve is really going to enjoy because she's been hearing about it a lot. And that is one more shout out to the most fun I had this week with tech, which is Banana Phone. My family is so sick of me talking about Banana Phone, and I just can't help it because it's so much fun. I am making at least one phone call a day with Banana Phone. What, you may ask if you haven't been paying attention, is Banana Phone? Well, here we go. Let's look. You can go to bananaphone.io and learn all about Banana Phone. Banana Phone is a Bluetooth handset that can pair with your iPhone or your Android device and just bring a little levity into your life. And I got to be honest, it's also got some really amazing sound quality. Hashtag Banana Phone. Yes, Eve, that is exactly right. You can buy it from bananaphone.io directly and get it that way. You can also find it on Amazon. It showed up at my house in no time at all. You can see here lots of people having fun with Banana Phone. Banana Phone hiding in the fruit bowl. It's a ridiculous thing. I understand it's a ridiculous thing. I have had so much fun playing with it. Let's just take a quick look at Banana Phone. So here it is. If you guys remember, if you are of a certain age, you remember when toys were made not to be disposable. So I want you to think of the plastic that toys were made out of back in the day. It's a pretty solid piece of plastic. Now it is plastic. Get over on the right side here. We got 3 buttons. Here's the multi-function button. So this turns it on and off. It answers a call. It hangs up a call. And we got the plus and minus buttons. But I wanted to give you like just a quick example. So everyone I have called with Banana Phone has said that sounds better than your Bluetooth headset. That sounds better than even using the phone like a phone, which none of us do anymore. The handset has really good audio quality. It charges with a micro USB. Plug that in right there. And it's just adorable. It also leads to all the jokes. Is that a banana in your pocket, or are you just trying to call home? Lots of opportunities for nonsense there as well. But I'm going to grab my phone real quick. And while I'm not going to make a phone call with it, I do want to show you guys real quickly sort of what the sound quality is like.
Hello and welcome to the Life in the Fashion Lane podcast. We are here to educate you, challenge you, support you, encourage you.
All right, so hopefully you can hear that a little bit. If you turn it all the way up and you set it on the table, it can act a bit like a speakerphone. I think you wouldn't want to do that anywhere where there was any real noise, but sitting in my quiet office by myself, I can absolutely listen to a podcast on Banana Phone. I could absolutely, maybe hold it out here to do a call if I needed the person next to me to hear the call as well, if it was a quiet room. But holding it up, like a phone, it is exactly the right size. It has been just hilarious and delightful, and I have enjoyed it so much. We're going to try and do like 1 or 2 stupid pieces of tech a month. I had one other thing this month that I used, and it was not worth the $5 I spent on it. But Banana Phone, I believe on Amazon, is actually $30 and totally worth the effort. This is a shameless plug. I hope they make lots of money. Some of the money that they make goes to conservation efforts, specifically in support of gorilla habitats. Banana Phone. Let's go. It was also pointed out to me that there are several. Well, now I can't find it. Oh, let's go back and look at my orders. That there are several songs. There is a song from Rafi, a children's song called Banana Phone. There's also, well, we've just been looking for all the songs with banana in them lately. And here we go. There we go. All right, let's get that up here just so you guys can see the Amazon listing for it. And I'm going to go ahead and grab a quick link because I would like someone to buy Banana Phone and leave me a voicemail using Banana Phone. That is my goal in life. So we're going to throw this link into the chat. 10 extra nerd points to whoever calls me and leaves me a voicemail using Banana Phone is the goal here. But 1% of all the sales of Banana Phone goes to help conservation efforts, specifically with gorilla habitat. Yeah, it's just a ridiculous thing. We've all been having a really serious couple of months as we try to figure out how to work from home, try to figure out how to manage our lives in a completely new way. And every once in a while, you just got to be a little silly. So, guys, it has been so much fun to talk with you. Thank you to Mark and Eve for leaving some comments. I am Levi Sauerbrei. As you know, I am the Nerd Butler. I hope you will all check out nerdbutler.com and find me on social media at Nerd Butler. Leave me a question, leave me a comment. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, give it a thumbs up, share it with someone you love if you think they'll find it valuable. You can also get in touch with me at contact@nerdbutler.com, or you can leave a voicemail at 469-546-5585. And with all of that said, I am ready to get out of here. I will talk to you all again next week. Thank you so much. And remember, technology is not a luxury.